So this is what I'm using. I got all this stuff off of Amazon. I've got a 10-foot hose and a 3-foot hose. I did that to ensure that I could use it on automotive applications from front to rear, like on a larger pickup truck or something. Obviously, if I was just going to use it on my four-wheeler or even my Jeep, a 6-foot hose probably would have been fine. But I wanted to make sure I was flexible enough, had enough length to use it for other things. So, same brand, same specifications, only difference is a 10-foot and a 3-foot. And all this stuff is 1/4 inch MNPT threaded. So, as far as I know, it should all match up together. So I have the two hoses. I have a 4-way block. The block is a straight pass-through. There's no valves or anything involved there. I have the air gauge. Only need one of these, but it's a Schrader valve that has the 1/4 inch MPT on that end. That'll go into the block. And then a pair of locking air chucks. And these are closed valve air chucks. So what that's supposed to mean is that no air will pass through these until they're locked onto the valve. And you just slide the collar up and down to lock and unlock them. That's important because what I didn't want to have happen is I connect one end to a tire and it's leaking out the other end before I can get to the other one. So at a minimum, at least one of them needs to be a closed valve. And then you would have to keep track of which is which. But for the price and the ease of ordering parts, just get two closed valves. Essentially what this should do, when I get it completed, is a number of things. First, it allows you to obviously air up two tires together at the same time. It should do that to the exact same pressures. So it's nice if you have a vehicle that the front and rear tire pressure is slightly different. You can do the fronts together or the rears together and they will be exactly the same. So there's that ease, but more importantly, what I was thinking of is with the pass-through of the block, if I had a tire that was completely flat, and this is more for my four-wheeler, I could latch onto an inflated tire and latch onto the deflated tire, and as long as the hole had been patched or whatever had caused it to go flat, those two pressures would equalize. Now it's not going to be enough pressure to reseat a bead, but as long as the bead is still sealed, it'll bring those two tires to an equal pressure. Now, on a four-wheeler, it's going to be different because the front and rear tires are different sized, and while the pressure may be the same, the volume of air in them will be different. So I'm going to play with that once I get this all put together and see exactly how that works. But essentially, you could take a flat tire and use the air volume that's in your other three good tires and air it back up. So that was my number one intention with this device. Number two being the ease of inflating two tires at the same time and to the exact same pressures. To prevent leaking, we're going to use a little Teflon tape on everything we put together. So we'll wrap the threads on all the male fittings with Teflon tape, and that should prevent any air leaks, hopefully. Putting the Schrader valve on the opposite of the air pressure gauge so that I'll have my two hoses running out the opposite ends of the 4-way splitter valve or splitter. And the completed product. Locking air chucks, or tire valve chucks on the ends. Four-way valve, Schrader valve for inflating. Gauge. The 10-foot section over here, again with the locking tire valve chuck. So this whole thing was about $65 in parts from Amazon. There are some commercial for sale designs of these out there. I believe they're all over $100 at least, and have some different designs. Some are designed to plug directly into a compressor, underhood compressor, different things like that. So this should at least fit my needs. So the next step is to test it and make sure it works. So the 3-foot section is connected, and this is what I was talking about with the closed valves. So the longer section still isn't connected, but we're sealed and we're already showing pressure on the gauge. So even if you only connect one, you don't have any air leaking. It has pressurized the whole system. Tire chuck goes on with the sleeve pulled to the rear, then gets locked in, and now it's essentially hands-free. So we have both connected. No noticeable leaks, and we have our total pressure between the two tires, and effectively now both tires are equalized as well. So had there been less air in one or the other, it is now equalized to whatever the difference was between the two. So I hook up to my tire inflator. First thing I noticed is there's about 4 pounds of difference between these two gauges. This one was not expensive at all, so I'm guessing that's probably the less accurate one. And as I hook the chuck on, the leaking is going to be coming from here, so you'll hear some air leaking. That's not coming from this setup. I just inflated both tires by 2 more pounds, from 36 to 38. At the same time, I'm also able to equally deflate them down to the same pressure. And they're back down to 36 again. The next test would be to completely deflate one of my 4-wheeler tires and then attempt to re-inflate it using the other tires. So I've deflated the front tire down about as low as it'll go. It wasn't even registering on the gauge for less than a full pound of pressure. Obviously with the ATV tires, they're going to be stiff, they're going to stand up some on their own. But that's about as flat as it'll go. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and hook up to the rear one first. The rear one is still full of air. And we can see rear one's showing about 6 or 7 pounds of pressure, which I think is about right for what that's supposed to be. And let's see if we'll catch catch this. We're going to hook to the... So I can hear the air rushing into the front one, and you can see the sidewall already starting to stand up. Now again, notice this is not connected to any air source. What it's doing, like I spoke of earlier, it is equalizing the air between the front and rear. So they're going to have the same pressure. Obviously the rear is a larger tire, it's going to have more volume to it, but it has now stood that front tire back up from flat. So then what I could do at this point is connect the two fronts together and make them equal, and then connect the two rears together and make them equal. And I've just inflated a dead tire from the other three good ones. Hopefully the GoPro's catching all this, but yeah, it works. So so far we inflated a pair of automotive tires up together and then deflated them back down together, the same pressure, and we've now taken almost completely deflated tire and inflated it using one of the other ones.